Welcome back to the Ponca City Monthly Podcast. I'm your host, Andy, and this week we have a special guest here with us today. It's actually an interview that I've been wanting to do for a really long time. I think it's fun whenever I can bring in people who are sort of colleagues or people that are in the same profession. And somebody that I've noticed as I go out to different events, and I've been around town for everything from the street festivals to the events at the Marlin Mansion, I always see this guy in the background, and he's always taking pictures and always talking to people, and I've always wanted to interview him. So today I've got Calley Lamar from Ponca City News here. Calley, how are you doing?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me on.
Yeah, thanks so much for coming on and talking with us. Like I was telling you off camera, I actually had tried to do this. I had mentioned to Kelsey about doing this interview like almost a year ago. So it took some time, and we actually have a story this month in the paper or in the magazine about Ponca City News.
Yeah.
And you kind of got a little mention in that. And so that's when I was like, I saw my opportunity to have you on.
Well, I'm glad to be on. Yeah, it's I do this all the time, interviewing people. So being on the other side of it's always kind of jump at the opportunity to be like, oh, I get to answer the questions now.
It's kind of a change of pace a little bit. Yeah. So tell me, let's start at the beginning. Where did you get bitten by the bug to want to be a writer and do this kind of life?
Well, I'd say as for writing, I was always kind of interested in it as a kid. I think I was probably about 11 years old when I decided, I've read enough comic books. I wanted to try to do that for myself. So that's kind of where I started doing just creative writing, and did that all throughout high school, college. And it was in college that I actually started taking broadcasting classes. I was primarily a theater major.
Okay.
My degree is technically communication arts,
okay,
with a theater emphasis. But that was probably the first experience with, writing something, a column. I think my first review was for the movie It Follows, just to kind of date that. That's cool. Was the newest one there. But right after college, during college at the time, I was working at a gas station in Okeene, and I had just graduated and was looking for something to do. And I found out that there was an opening at the Okeene Record. So I went there, and I wrote with them for about a year or so, doing pretty much what I do now, though on a significantly smaller scale. I think Okeene maybe has about, if you're lucky, it maybe has 2,000 people in it.
Wow, okay.
So yeah, much, much smaller. Like when people say Ponca City is a small town, I came from like a small town. So that's Okeene's what I think of when I hear the word small town. So. But from there, I went to film school in 2016 after I was wrapped up with that, and just floated around for a bit until I heard that there was a job opening here in Ponca City. And my brother was living here at the time. He's working at the House FM. He was their social media guy. So I initially came on working in ads. I had Photoshop experience. I was kind of self-taught on that as I was building ads for people.
Sure.
And then the pandemic happened.
Wow, okay.
And that shook up a lot of just internal. It shook up everything. Yeah. Like the first couple of interviews I had with anybody after that, it's always, and then the pandemic happened. It was a reoccurring phrase there. But we had a lot of shakeups, people retiring, semi-retiring. And so since I did have prior experience as a writer, they had asked me if I wanted to pick that up. So I decided that, I think I can do this. I was a little nervous at first because, like I said, Okeene, significantly smaller.
Sure.
But I eventually kind of just, wanted to make sure the focus was on Ponca City and Ponca City News. And big help for that, probably the first two people that really helped me get out there were Shelly Arrett. Just talking with her, she was superintendent at the schools at the time. And so that was a good connection because I initially started out as just education beat because I did substitute teaching for a bit.
Okay.
And then Rich at the Chamber was the other one that really kind of opened up everything. Like Ponca City Chamber has been really good about just making connections and getting in touch with people because that's kind of my back door to find out everything that's going on.
You mentioned briefly, so did you actually want to be a comic book writer, or was that just you were just wanting to be just a writer, didn't care what it was?
Well, I mean, I'd say, that never went away. There's still that desire to do that, and I still do creative writing, which may see the light of day someday since I'm technically a published writer. So, the odds of that are significantly higher now, but, it's one of those things that is kind of a work in progress. You just work through it and see what you can get together. And there's also just overcoming writer's blocks and things like, I look back on this thing I wrote 2 years ago and I'm like, oh, I hate it. But I also know everybody hates their own writing. Like, absolutely. I probably critique all my columns all the time and stories I put out there. So it is nice hearing praise because I know that I'm a harsh critic for myself, and so that I might have a bias against myself in my own writing. So it's something that I'm sure, it's not going to go away and something I still want to do.
So what are your favorite kind of stories to write about in town or around?
Oh, that's a good question. I do like anytime there's some kind of good cause to get out there. I always like writing about the nonprofits and getting information there. I also usually like if there's something that I didn't know about in Ponca City and I have the opportunity to share that with other people, I like to do that too. Like, I'd say one of the earlier ones I can think of is that there was a tunnel connecting the school's administration building and east. Like, I didn't know that when I moved here. So, and I remember when I put that out there, we had comments on that there were people that are like, oh yeah, I remembered that. I knew about that when I was in middle school and all that. So, that's kind of nice. It's new for new people, and it's a reminder for everybody else. And I also really like the ones where you can really dig into meat and potato stuff. I think, no pun intended, but I think my favorite one was working with Chef Jeff at the schools to talk about. He took me probably about, I think we started that day about 5 in the morning or so. And we were just going all throughout from there until lunch, just seeing how everything is prepared at every site and everything as deliveries come in. So that was a nice day, just getting everything, to see the big picture. He said it's the largest restaurant in K County, and I don't think he's kidding with just the sheer amount of people who are working to feed. Yeah, I don't even know what the population of
45.
The school is, but it's like the school has a larger more kids than there are in the people of Okeene. So that's a lot of people to feed.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, it's a big undertaking. I'm sure that was. So do you prefer like when you get to go out onto the scene and be with who you're talking to, or do you prefer more of just like the quick sit down and do a quick interview? Like, because that sounds like a full day of I'm sure you took a lot of photos and all that. Yeah,
there aren't a whole lot of days that are like that, and I do appreciate when I do get that opportunity. I think there's something to be said about, doing something helps you retain memory. So I think going out and seeing things and doing it, like, I could describe a lot of what we did that day in pretty great detail just because, I was there experiencing it. Not to say anything about, that there's anything wrong with the sit-down interviews.
Sure.
Because I've had some really great interviews. I've interviewed a lot of people, so, just all types of backgrounds, all different types of characters, and it's really great. But being out there, being in the field, it does give you a kind of a better idea of what's going on. Because it is, at the end of the day, it's like part of the writing when you're writing for a newspaper is you're basically, someone is giving you all of this information and you have to tell that story back to everybody, but you got to make sure it's not, like a game of telephone and you're changing the details in between.
Right.
So it's kind of a thing. I always say I have to be kind of become an expert in the field that I'm talking with in between the interview and then regurgitating it to someone else. So I definitely think being hands-on is something I prefer to do when the opportunity arises, but I'm also flexible and can, do whatever I need to.
Yeah. Do you whenever you were in Okeene, did you do both writing and photography, or did you just do one or the other?
Yeah, no, Okeene, it was...
Okeene,
yeah,
I'm
Okeene,
sorry.
okay. Yeah,
I'm
no,
so
you're
sorry.
good. I wasn't close.
Okeene.
Yeah, Okeene. It's very small. It's tip top of Blaine County near Fairview. Anybody out there knows where that is. You could just Google Okeene. There's not Okeene.
Okay, Okeene.
But yeah, I did do both writing and photography there. It was, since it was so small, it was pretty much the only active reporter doing anything there. Now we did have other reporters, everything, but I was there about it was Tuesday to Friday that we usually had that going on, and yeah, there was definitely an advantage there because I knew everybody.
Sure,
It was
grew up
small. It was
there.
small enough that a lot of people knew me because I went to school with their kids, or we went to school together, everything. So there were opportunities for hands-on things there too. Like, I mean, I had a day going out with the sanitation guys, and yeah, it was. I can still smell that stuff. Yeah, it was. I remember in particular, they always tell you not to flush wipes down the toilet. Never did that or anything. But then I got to see the reason why, and he's like, sanitation guy digging it out and being like, "Yep, yeah, you see that? That's a wipe."
Oh, wow.
It gets all gunked up.
Nice. They got to witness all of that through the journalistic eye.
Yeah, it's not always a clean job.
Sure. Yeah.
I've definitely had a fair share of smells that I'm never going to forget.
What do you think has been the most exciting? Was the school thing the most exciting story you've done so far, or what has been your favorite one?
Oh, well, that one's definitely one of my favorites. That was actually one we had submitted for a Oklahoma Press Award.
Oh, cool.
I don't think I got it, but that was one. I also really enjoyed just talking with the Addicts Community Alliance. That was another one that we had submitted another year, and I do like history a lot, so hearing it firsthand and everything. It's really nice just to hear people's personal experiences and, history around here. And it's important for preserving that, just to talk to people, especially the people who it concerns, because that's a firsthand account that you have there.
I think that is, part of our jobs as journalists is to be able to record the history. And so that when they look back, it's our words that tell the stories that, shape what people think of that time. From theater to writing, did you always want to do like theater stuff? Like, do you do theater stuff now?
Well, one of I jumped at the bit wanting to get into theater in high school. That started being offered in Okeene when you're a freshman. So jumped right into it because I also really enjoyed like role playing games like D&D and things. So I really like being able to get into a different headset and be a different character whenever acting or anything like that. It's fun. Just they call it play for a reason.
Yeah.
It's like you're just having fun and you're doing pretend there. But I did that all throughout high school. We had this kind of what inspired in part Mr. Ponca City, actually, the pageant that my leadership group put on. There was this show we did that was a parody of the Wheat Queen festival. It was called Mr. Irresistible.
Wow.
So I did that all 4 years that I was there. I didn't win in any of those, but I got Mr. Congeniality every single year. So
Nice.
That's some accomplishment.
Heck yeah.
And then, just in college, I was a stage manager for a lot of the shows that I was on, which for those that don't have a theater background, that is, you're basically taking the reins from the director when the show starts. You kind of have to, during the production, you have to kind of know the script as well as all the actors, and then you're basically directing everybody, like, here's your cue for lights, here's your cue for sound, so-and-so needs to get on stage, wrangle them, and all that. But then, I got to do acting roles. We had a lot of kids shows we put on. The two that I participated in were Charlotte's Web and James and the Giant Peach.
Nice.
Yeah, those, I swear sometimes my my instructor Steve Strickler, I love that man. He is one of my favorite human beings. But every role would involve some kind of running, sprinting chase scenes he'd put me in. I thought he was going to trying to kill me. but you know, it was a lot of fun getting to do those. And as far as we are here now in Ponca City, you know, I've covered events the Poncan has put on, and as well as the Playhouse. For a while there before the pandemic, I had helped run projectors. I know I ran the sound on one of the Sylvan Zing shows. So it was nice, you know, to get to do that again. And of course, when we did Mr. Ponca City, I got to do sound design again. So that was a really nice experience, but I haven't really got to go back into the acting portion of that. And some of that is just, you know, my time now is a little more divided than it used to be. But, you know, it is something that I hope to eventually go back to at some point, because it was a lot of fun. And it is nice to get out of your own headspace and be someone else for a while.
So you mentioned that you went to film school also. Was that... did your job working as a journalist, did that project you into that? Because you said that, because for me, that's how it was. After I was doing journalism for so long, I realized that everybody was going to video. And so I thought I better figure out how to use a video camera and do some editing.
Well, I don't think mine was as strategic as that, unfortunately. It was kind of more, let's see, I was 2016. So I would have been about 24 and, you know, getting through that year, and I was just thinking, like, man, you know, I'd kind of like to try, you know, filmmaking. Mm-hmm. So I went to film school for a bit at OCCC in Oklahoma City. Met a lot of great people there, got a lot of great experiences just working behind the scenes and things. I didn't end up doing anything as far as filmmaking goes, but I learned a lot of great skills, I think, as far as the behind the scenes and the movie making portion of that. Yeah. Which I always been interested in movies, which is part of the reason why I have a film reviewing column, and the process of those. Like, one of the things I miss in home releases now, even if you don't have a home release and it's just like streaming, is the behind the scenes stuff. Like DVDs, you know, used to have hours and hours of behind the scenes stuff. One of my favorites to go through was the Peter Jackson's King Kong. You'd have all the production diaries, hours of that, behind the scene footage and things like that. So, you know, it's cool. I like the art of filmmaking, and it's a collaborative process. You know, it only works when a bunch of people are coming together on things. And I don't know, you know, it's great to see, you know, all of us usually see the finished product and don't realize, you know, the behind the scenes. And when you're actually there shooting something on scene, I mean, for example, student film we shot, we were doing this scene real quick, about 2 minutes in a living room. We were there for about 8 hours. Yeah. And there were 30 of us in this room. But, you know, when you look at it, it's like, oh, just 2 people in the house. And I think a lot of people think it's like, oh, there's the director there and there's the camera guy and that's it. And they don't think about the other 30 people in the room. It's just packed. So, you know, it's that movie magic that I really enjoy.
Yeah. So is it, do you do it in the paper or just on Facebook? But every Halloween, do you do a series of Halloween movies or horror movie? They're creature features, right?
Yeah. So the column itself, which is called Comically Serious, I thought it was you know, there's that comic angle there, but it's also an oxymoron, so that kind of gets your attention on that. It was kind of launched with the idea of, you know, doing movie reviews from the get-go, because that's what I like to do. It's kind of evolved to, you know, whatever I decide I want to talk about. So it's comics, it's TV, it's movies. To the thing you were talking about, every year for about the past, 7 years, I want to say. I've been doing this thing I call Halloween, where it just kind of, it got inspired by a lot of YouTube videos where YouTubers that I'd follow would just do like, Halloween features. Like I think of Cinemassacre's Monster Madness was a big inspiration behind that. And I thought it's like, oh, well, this gives me a chance to get my 2 cents on a couple things. So, I always try to mix popular movies with obscure ones that I like and things of that nature. And so the columns, usually I try to, in October, have something related to horror or something because it's a genre that I enjoy. It's one of those genres that also you'll see a lot of new filmmakers get into because it's the easiest one to break into. Yeah, that's why you'll see a lot of people who go on to do other things. They started out in horror.
Because it has a built-in audience. That's part of the deal is that horror fans will watch pretty much anything.
Yeah, pretty much anything. It's, I mean, everything from, your low-budget sci-fi films of the 50s to, your big prestige horror films, I guess, to stuff that's a little trashier, like Friday the 13th, it's gritty. They're not great films from a filmmaking perspective, but that's not why you watch them. You watch them because they're fun to watch Jason get creative ways of taking these guys out.
Absolutely. So when you review movies, do you like new movies? Do you get to go to any of the like press screenings, or do you just go to just go buy a ticket and go with everybody
pretty
else?
Much it's just go buy a ticket and go check it out. The only press screening I ever got to go to was Killers of the Flower Moon.
Okay, yeah.
So that was a great experience. But yeah, for the most part, and it's one of the reasons I'm really glad we're getting a movie theater back, is because it's either Tonkawa, Stillwater, or the Calley up in Kansas to be able to watch any new movies. Sometimes if I want to see something on an IMAX, I'll drive all the way down to OKC.
Okay, so you got to make a little trip for it.
Usually you plan your day around that.
Have you seen what's the new one out? I know what you did last summer. They rebooted that. Have you seen any of that yet?
I haven't got around to that. The last 2 movies I watched were Superman and Jurassic World Rebirth.
Okay.
Of the 2, if you haven't seen any of them and want to go watch one, I'd say Superman. Jurassic World Rebirth, it's like, I think one of the biggest problems was that it's kind of slow at the start getting to interesting stuff, and I can appreciate, there's maybe 15 minutes of dinosaur in the 2-hour classic Jurassic Park, but in between that we have interesting conversations, we have interesting characters and philosophical stuff, and they were trying that, but some of it just didn't land or didn't get payoff or anything like that. But Superman, on the other hand, that movie, what I really enjoyed about it was it kind of drops you right into things. It's like the film version of what it's like to read a comic in the middle of a run. Because anybody who reads comic books, they just know, it's like you can really, they're always asking, where do I start here and there? And really you can just drop in anywhere in a comic series because they always have text boxes or something to catch you up on what you've missed and, bring you up to speed. And so it kind of does that. It's kind of like it just drops you right into this world. It's like, here's what you need to know, the basic information. So now we can just tell the story and, got all that out of the way, which is good because Superman's been around for almost 90 years. I think we all know, where he comes from.
Yeah. So it's just a story that picks up in the middle and kind of takes you on an adventure.
Yeah, and I think I likened it in my review to some of the DC animated movies that they did. Well, they're still doing them, but they would be standalones and they not connected to each other or anything else. They would just basically have a story with these characters and drop you into it. Because they knew that it's like, you guys know who Batman is. We don't have to tell you his parents died.
Yeah.
You can just drop him in there and just do whatever story you want, and it's a good chance to explore themes with the characters, put them in new situations, and that's kind of what the exciting part of comics is. I don't need to know that Bruce Wayne's parents walked down the wrong alley or anything. I don't need to see Thomas and Martha Wayne get shot for the 700th time. I mean, it's something that we know about the character. It is already informed. And so then that gives us an opportunity to see, how Batman reacts to whatever it is that he's doing, the situation he's in.
Yeah.
It could be like, the one coming to mind right now is Under the Red Hood. So, that's a whole thing about a former protege that died and came back.
So what films are you looking forward to for this rest of the summer? We've got August. This will actually air in August. So what's coming out?
So from when we're recording this, I have my ticket for Fantastic Four, so I'm going to check that out. Nice. That one, kind of the double whammy superhero that with Superman in this, looking forward to that because they're kind of capturing that old school comic book vibe that I really enjoyed. I'd say other movies I'm looking forward to this year. There is one in August coming out called Weapons. It's a horror film. It's about this whole class of children that just go missing, like just one particular class. And based on the trailers don't give too much away, which is good. I feel some trailers give a lot of stuff away. But it seems that they come back and they come back wrong. And so, that's an interesting premise for a movie. It's like this one class disappears and then they all come back. And, it's like, oh, that makes me want to watch a movie.
Nice. Another thing we were talking about, and this is something that I don't know how you feel about it, but I've seen it over my career where I started out as it was just a different world when I started out. But now readers are going more online. They're wanting stuff instantaneously. They're not, we're a monthly magazine, so stuff kind of comes out monthly, but you guys are more frequent. So what's it like for you and losing readers? Do you think you're losing readers?
I think we've stayed pretty steady with everything because there's a kind of this phrase that we've had around. It's like the Ponca City news is just about stuff that happens in Ponca City. You're not going to find out about a lot of stuff that happens in Ponca City in CNN or Fox or MSNBC or anything. So as far as like community newspapers go, they do play an important role in being news for the community. Mm-hmm. And we kind of have a unique perspective in that we're one of 10, people that are actually running a press operation in Oklahoma. Yeah. So, we print for about 30 small community newspapers from across Oklahoma and Kansas and Texas. So, there's definitely still, a need for community newspapers. And I think as long as, you're going to have people living in rural areas that, unless everybody decides to up and move, to OKC or something, I think there's always going to be a need for, having some sort of info out there. And, people could talk about online stuff like like Facebook or community pages or things like that. But at the same time, that doesn't really have... they have admin, sure, but they don't have the same kind of level of journalistic scrutiny that a newspaper would have as far as getting that information out there.
How has the creating stories for you, how has that changed from when you started? Have you gotten better at it? Are you faster at it, or does it still take
yeah. No, things have definitely gotten a lot faster. Starting in the pandemic meant that a lot of my stuff was finding who wants to talk to me, and there's lots of sitting by with the police scanner, just tuning in, just being like, okay, I guess, we're going to see if, which I think the only one time that I actually produced anything was there was a truck that had flipped trying to go under the South Avenue underpass. I feel like all the time you hear about a truck scraping the bottom of that. But yeah, it flipped. So, made an interesting photo. Nobody was hurt. thank God. That's always something I worry about coming up on, an accident or anything, and always something I try to avoid. It's like, like, it's like, here's the accident, show the damage to the vehicles. That's the important thing, to leave the people out of the photos, because it's, I feel just kind of like, personally, I just feel like, it's like, people are already going through enough in an accident. It's like, last thing I'd want to have is have my picture in the newspaper, in something like that. So
yeah, especially the local where everybody knows everybody. And
it's the same thing. You keep you always withhold names until everything's kind of identified. A good example would be since I've been at the newspaper for about the last 6 years, I think we've maybe had a dozen or so fatality accidents, and those we never report on the names until usually it's Highway Patrol that covers them, and they'll give us the names, or the Ponca City Police Department, because usually once the law enforcement knows, it's like that means that the family's been identified, so then that's information that's public.
Yeah.
But you don't want to create a situation where someone finds out that their loved one passed in the newspaper.
Yeah, it can be a tough. Do you find that it's tougher reporting on stuff like that than, movies are easy and fun, nobody gets hurt. Is it harder to do those kind of stories?
Yeah, there's like a real human loss of life there, and it's easy a lot of times when you just see the names and everything because you might not even know this person, they're just a name there. But, you consider the fact that that name belongs to a person that has friends and family, people who care about them. So, just kind of from a human empathetic perspective there, you just know, it can be hard, and, it's kind of, that, you're reporting probably the last thing that, is going to be about this person that's here, outside of, maybe an obituary or something like that. So it's definitely, you definitely hate to see, whenever you hear about fatality accidents.
All right, guys, that's going to wrap us up. Thank you, Calley, so much for coming in, and definitely check out his Fantastic Four. It'll probably be out way before this interview comes out, and you'll be able to check that out. So, Calley,
it'll be online.
It'll be online, absolutely.
We have online at the newspaper too.
Nice, very cool. All right, Calley, thank you so much. Thank you all. Come back next week for another great interview. Thanks.